Hello, my name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software. So let's talk about databases. Let's talk about what's inside a database. And no, I don't mean tables and indexes and all that fun stuff. We're going to talk about that later. We're going to get to that really soon in these fundamentals videos. No, I want to talk about what consists of a database. What is actually we talking about? So we've already set up SQL Server. We've had a little introduction to Management Studio. And so if we start to work on databases, what are we working on? I mean, what's there? What is this thing? I mean, it's not simply some magic going on inside SQL Server. It's a file. It's actually more than one file. Every database minimum is 2 files. And the 2 files are defined as a data file and a log file. Now, the data file is your data, indexes, stored procedures, all of the things that define a database are inside that data file. And yes, you can have more than one, and those files can be grouped into file groups. The log file is simply a log, a recording of changes, either the changes being made to the database, to the data, or to the changes being made literally to the objects inside the database. You know, as we get into data structure manipulation language, also called DDL, data definition language, that stuff is all logged. As we talk about manipulating data, the DML, data manipulation language, that is all logged. And the logs are written to the log file. And yes, you can have more than one log file and all that fun stuff. Now, these files, when we set them up, have what is called an auto growth setting. And this is a very dangerous setting. So it's one of the first things we should look at and address. And the reason it's dangerous is the default value for it is a percentage. And so when the files are very, very tiny, it grows in these little tiny percentages, no big deal. But as the files get bigger, the percentages get bigger, and therefore it causes blocking and locking, all kinds of problems. So when we are setting up databases, one of the first things we want to do is ensure that we choose an appropriate auto growth setting. Either we have none at all, because we're going to maintain the data on our own, or we set it to some value that grows in chunks that are reasonable for our system. Percentage growth usually is not the best choice. You'll have to evaluate that on your own systems. Now, the other thing we need to talk about is where we put the files. Now, when we're talking about a development machine, and you guys are just getting going and you're playing and you're figuring things out, and we're not talking production, we're not talking, big production systems. On your dev machine, put them wherever you want. It doesn't matter. Put them wherever you've got space to put them. But when we start talking production, when we start talking, moving into real environments where we have to maintain this data over time, the first thing I can tell you flat out, do not put your data or log file on your C drive. Do not put it in the same place as the operating system and SQL Server itself are living and managing all their material. Put them on separate drives. And getting into the whole thing of like, well, if we're on LUNs, if we're on SANs, if we're in all this stuff, okay, all taken, and there's a whole bunch of discussion to be had around that, way beyond the basics here. For the basics, separate the operating system from the data storage. Separate the data storage from the logs. That's the basics. There's more to be said around this, but that's all for now. So with that, the next video we're going to start creating databases. That's going to be the easy part of this process. So a database consists of files. There are 2 types, data and log. Yes, when we get really advanced, there's more than 2. But anyway, for the basics, there are 2 types, data and log. Put them separate from the operating system. That's it. My name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Redgate Software.